After the biker's killing, Sammy Gravano couldn't stop. Violence had become a habit, a momentum he couldn't slow down, and soon he would find himself walking straight into another murder. His next victim was Johnny Keys Simone. It was 1980. Keys, a high-ranking captain in the Philadelphia crime family, became the fifth man to fall in Sammy's rise to power. His death wasn't personal. It was the cold, unyielding law of the Mafia. Keys had taken part in the assassination of his own boss, Angelo Bruno, without permission from the heads of the 5 families in New York. In the Mafia, that was an unforgivable sin. The commission demanded blood to restore order, and the contract went to the Gambinos. Sammy was chosen to carry it out. He played the role of a loyal friend, luring Keys into a safe meeting in New York to settle his troubles with the bosses. On the day of the hit, Sammy picked him up in a van. Keys, trusting Sammy completely, sat in the back, relaxed, believing he was under the protection of a brother. But as the van rolled toward a secluded wooded area on Staten Island, the truth became impossible to ignore. The safe meeting was a trap. Sammy wasn't there to negotiate. He was there to deliver Keys to his executioners. When the shooters appeared, Johnny Keys faced his fate like a true mobster. No begging, no panic. He made one final request: to remove his shoes before the hit, refusing to die like a common criminal. Sammy watched with a grim respect, later recalling, "He went out like a man. He knew the rules. He played the game and he lost. He asked us to take his shoes off so he wouldn't die with his boots on. We did it." It was a sign of respect for a guy who wasn't a rat and accepted his fate. Keys was buried in a shallow grave in the woods. For Sammy, it was another flawless execution, proof he could navigate the deadly politics of the commission with ruthless precision. 5 down, 14 to go. Victim number 6, Frank Fiala, 1982. Frank Fiala was a wealthy Czechoslovak immigrant, businessman, and cocaine trafficker operating in New York. In 1982, he approached Sammy Gravano, who had at this time become a made member of the Gambino Crime Family, to rent Gravano's Brooklyn nightclub, the Plaza Suite, for a birthday party he was throwing for himself. Fiala paid Gravano $40,000 for the one-night rental. 2 days after the party, Fiala offered to buy the entire club, including the building and Gravano's office, for $1 million. A price far above the property's actual value of around $200,000. Gravano accepted the offer, and the deal was structured with payments including cash and gold bullion, but it was not yet finalized or closed. Before completing the payment or finalizing the transaction, Fiala moved into Gravano's office at the Plaza Suite and began acting as if he already owned the property. He started renovations without permission, including knocking out walls in Gravano's personal office. This blatant disrespect infuriated Gravano, who confronted Fiala about the overstep. In the confrontation, Fiala pulled out an Uzi submachine gun, threatened to kill Gravano on the spot,
"I am not worried about you,"
and boasted about his violent background. Gravano backed down in the moment, but decided Fiala's actions and direct threat left no choice but to eliminate it. Gravano planned the ambush with his trusted associate, Laborio Louis Melito.
Look at that guy. Yeah, he's really into it. He's got moves. All right, drink up.
On the night of June 27, 1982, around 2 a.m., as Fiala was leaving the Plaza Suite, Gravano called out to him from the street to distract and turn him around.
Hey, Frankie, what's up?
Surprised to see Gravano, Fiala faced him. At that moment, Milito approached from behind and shot Fiala at close range, killing him. Additional shots were fired afterward as a deliberate message about the consequences of disrespect. The murder was unsanctioned. When Castellano learned of it, he was furious at Gravano for acting without approval and potentially exposing the family to risk. Gravano faced severe consequences under Cosa Nostra rules, possibly including death. But after explaining Fiala's extreme disrespect and the threat with the Uzi, Castellano spared him and gave him a pass. Gravano was never charged for the killing, though police suspected his involvement. He retained the substantial down payment from Fiala. This incident further strained relations between Gravano and Castellano, setting the stage for later conflicts in the Gambino family. Victims number 7 and 8, Paul Castellano and his underboss Thomas Bellotti. Paul Castellano was the complete opposite of the men who would eventually have him killed. He didn't grow up as a street thug. He wasn't known for carrying out hits himself. And he wasn't respected for violence. Paul Castellano was a corporate boss. By the late 1970s and early 1980s, Castellano controlled the Gambino crime family through money, not fear. Construction, garment trucking, unions, concrete. He lived in a mansion on Staten Island, far removed from the streets where his soldiers earned. To Castellano, the Mafia was a business empire. To men like John Gotti and Sammy Gravano, that was the problem. According to Sammy Gravano, Castellano had lost touch with the street. He didn't understand how captains survived anymore. And worse, he didn't trust them. Castellano believed law enforcement pressure was increasing, so he tightened control, demanded more money, and began micromanaging his captains. Gravano would later say this created paranoia. Because in the Mafia, when a boss starts asking questions, someone usually ends up dead. The breaking point came when Castellano became obsessed with loyalty. He suspected crews were skimming money. He suspected captains were plotting. And most importantly, he suspected John Gotti. Sammy Gravano later stated that Castellano viewed Gotti as reckless, too flashy, too loud, too visible. But Castellano didn't just want Gotti sidelined. According to Gravano, Castellano was considering having Gotti killed, and that plan likely included killing Gravano too. Gravano would later explain that once he heard this, there was no going back. Because in his world, you don't wait to see if a boss decides to kill you. You move first. Gravano also claimed Castellano had violated Mafia tradition. The boss was supposed to protect his captains, not secretly plan their executions without a formal sit-down. To Gravano, Castellano wasn't just dangerous, he was illegitimate. So the decision was made. Paul Castellano had to go. John Gotti would become the public face of the plot. But Sammy Gravano was deeply involved in planning it. They chose Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan, a public place, a bold message. On December 16, 1985, Castellano arrived with his underboss, Thomas Bellotti. They stepped out of their car, and before they could react, gunmen opened fire.
People in the Mafia retire. Last December, some in the Gambino crime family thought the boss, Paul Castellano, had been in power long enough. He and his number 2 man, Tommy Bellotti, were retired in front of a Manhattan restaurant. But this is also how many people in the Mafia get promoted. With Castellano and Bellotti out of the way, alleged Gambino family capo John Gotti seized power. Law enforcement officials say he's the man who now heads the Mafia's largest and most powerful crime family.
The boss of the Gambino crime family was executed in the street. Gravano later admitted he helped organize the hit. He selected shooters, he coordinated movements, and he ensured there would be no mistakes. Paul Castellano was dead, and John Gotti was now the boss. But for Sammy Gravano, this wasn't the end.